Good evening. Welcome to another edition at the School of Brock. I Can Fix It Historical Application, Measuring the Record. Last time we discussed setting the foundation, and we're going to measure the record this evening. Again, if you've enjoyed it, go ahead and click that like button. And at the end of the episode, if you have questions or comments, please feel free to leave them and fill them up. We'll enjoy reading them and responding. Don't have any at the moment, so without further ado, Section 1, Bridge and Restatement of the Baseline. In the previous episode, we established the factual baseline. The National Counterterrorism Center was created after the September 11th attacks by the Intelligence Reform and Terrorism Prevention Act of 2004. Its purpose was to integrate terrorism-related intelligence across the U.S. government, conduct strategic operational planning, and serve as the principal counterterrorism advisor to the president. Joe Kent, a former Special Forces soldier and CIA paramilitary officer, was nominated by President Trump in February 2025, confirmed by the Senate in July 2025 by a 52-44 vote, and assumed the position of Director of the National Counterterrorism Center. On March 17, 2026, Kent resigned. In his public letter, he stated that Iran posed no imminent threat to the United States and that the war began due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby. He said he could not support the ongoing war in good conscience. He later added that the dissenting views were not fully allowed to reach the president. That is the documented record. Today, we measured it against the 5 standards. Section 2, Standard 1, Evidentiary Standard. The evidentiary standard requires that major claims be tested against the actual strength of the evidence, not against confidence, authority, or repetition. 2 completing claims sit at the center of this record. The first is the claim, advanced by the administration, that Iran posed an imminent threat justifying military action. The second is the claim made by the director of the National Counterterrorism Center himself, that Iran posed no imminent threat. Under the evidentiary standard, we ask only what evidence was available and how it was weighed. Kent, as the principal counterterrorism advisor, stated that the evidence did not support an imminent threat to the United States. He further stated that high-ranking Israeli officials and members of the American media had advanced a misinformation campaign. The public record does not contain a detailed, declassified release of the specific intelligence that the administration relied upon to assert imminence at the moment the decision was made. What the record does contain is the formal disagreement of the official whose statutory role was to integrate and assess terrorism-related intelligence. When the official charged with providing the president the best integrated counterterrorism assessment publicly declares that the evidence did not support the central justification for war, the evidentiary standard requires that the dissent be weighed with full seriousness. The standard does not automatically accept either claim. It demands that both be tested against the underlying evidence. At present, the detailed evidence remains largely classified. What is public is the formal break by the... That's why it gets me like that. That's why it gets me. What is public is the formal break by the director of the NCTC over the strength of the evidence. That break itself is part of the record that that standard must measure. Section 3, Standard 2, the household test. The household test asks what a decision costs ordinary American households and the long-term capacity of the country. Military action carries immediate and deferred costs. The lives of service members, the expenditure of national resources, the risk of wider escalation, and the opportunity cost of resources not directed toward domestic priorities. Kent framed his resignation in precisely these terms. He wrote, hang on. Sorry. I'm running my words. I get all this messed up. My videos go to crap, and I don't edit. I'm not editing. We're live. I know. No, after, you know. He wrote that he could not support sending the next generation to fight and die in a war that, in his assessment, served no benefit to the American people and did not justify the cost of American lives. You go, Joe. He linked this judgment to his personal experience as a combat veteran and as a Gold Star husband. The household test does not require us to accept or reject his conclusion. It requires us to place the claimed security benefit against the concrete costs that will be borne by American families in lives, in treasure, and in long-term stability of the country's position. When the official responsible for counterterrorism analysis states that the costs are not justified by the threat, the household test demands that this assessment be examined rather than dismissed. The household test demands that this assessment be examined rather than dismissed. The household test demands that this assessment be examined rather than dismissed. Section 4. Standard 3, transparency as structure. Transparency as structure requires that the information need to test a claim be available while decisions can still be influenced. Kent stated after his resignation that he and other senior officials with concerns were not allowed to present those concerns directly to the president and that there had not been a robust debate. If accurate, this describes a decision process in which dissenting assessments from the government's own counterterrorism leadership were excluded at the decisive moment. Transparency as structure is not satisfied by later public statements or post-decision explanations. Got that right. It requires that the relevant assessments, including dissenting ones, be available to the decision maker while the choice is still open. The public record currently contains Kent's assertion that this did not occur. The administration has not released a detailed accounting of which assessments were presented, which were withheld, and on what basis. Until that fuller, complete record is available, the transparency standard registers a significant gap. The principal counterterrorism official has stated that the process did not permit the full range of internal assessments to reach the president in time. Section 5, Standard 4, accountability without permission. Accountability without permission requires that consequences for failure or serious disagreement not depend solely on the goodwill of the same actors who hold power. Imagine that. Imagine that. In this case, the accountability mechanism that operated was personal resignation. Kent chose to leave rather than continue in a role that required him to support a policy he judged unjustified. You go, Joe. Resignation is a form of accountability, but it is individual rather than structural. It places the cost on the official who dissents rather than on the decision process itself. The record shows no automatic, independent review triggered by the formal breakdown between the director of the NCTC and the justification for the war. Excuse me. Sorry. No. Yeah. Okay. The record shows no automatic independent review triggered by the formal breakdown between the director of the NCTC and the justification for the war. The system absorbed the resignation and continued. Under Standard 4, we observed that the primary consequence was the departure of the dissenting official, not an independent examination of the decision process that produced the disagreement. Imagine that again and again and again and again. Section 6, Standard 5, New Ground. Standard 5 asks whether the incentives that shape decisions about the use of military force have been replaced or remain dominant. Things that make you go, The creation of the NCTC after 9/11 was itself an attempt to change incentives, to force better integration of intelligence so that the threat assessments would be more complete and less siloed. Individualized. Kent's resignation raises the question of whether the incentives surrounding the decision to use force have shifted. If the process can move forward while the principal counterterrorism official concludes that the evidence does not support the central claim of imminent threat, and if dissenting assessments are not fully heard, then the incentives that reward decisive action over rigorous internal challenge remain powerful, which means creating it did what? After 9/11, putting Joe in place did what? He resigned because he was no longer what? The public record does not yet show structural changes that would make it more costly to proceed without full internal contestation. Come on, man. Of the evidence than to pause and examine it. This is the measurement under Standard 5 at this stage. In other words, why is nobody taking Joe seriously? Why have we the people not stood up, stood ground, and asked Joe, hey, we need to know what you were talking about. If the government officials are not interested, then they're not interested. But classified means we the people when it comes to them not being interested in our lives. Let's get that right. Yeah. Section 7. Full synthesis and closing. I got to calm down a second. I know. Shouldn't get upset during these. This is about we the people. But if you're not getting upset about what's going on now, in time, right now, what's happening to us, Mr. Kent, on part of we the people, I apologize, sir. I absolutely appreciate the job you were doing. And I feel so ashamed as a veteran, prior 2-branch veteran of service and trying to get my vision back. I have contacts on and they're blurry. Please bear with me. A crying shame. It's a crying shame. Charlie Kirk, where are you, Charlie Kirk? The people you built, we need so much behind. Okay. We have now applied all 5 standards to the document documented record. Evidentiary standard. The director of the NCTC formally disputed the claim of imminent threat. The detailed underlying evidence remains largely unavailable for public examination. Household test. The cost in lives and resources were judged by the counterterrorism director himself to be unjustified by the threat. Go Joe. Transparency as structure. The same official stated that dissenting assessments were not fully permitted to reach the president in time. Accountability without permission. The primary consequence was individual resignation rather than independent structural review. I can't believe that does not burn us up. Burn us up. New ground. The record does not yet show that the incentives governing decisions about the use of force have been fundamentally replaced. New ground. The record does not yet show that the incentives governing decisions about the use of force have been fundamentally replaced. Now, I'm going to throw an assumption in there. Does that mean going back to way before I was born? I mean, the actual grounding fathers, as Charlie so well taught us, what was in those documents? The e pluribus unum, careful what you ask for, be wary of what? Okay. These are the results of measuring the public record against fixed standards. They are not final political conclusions. They are the product of the method. The questions that remain belong to every listener. When the official charged with integrating counterterrorism intelligence publicly disputes the central justification for war, what level of evidence should be required before the claim of imminent threat is accepted? How should the cost to American households and service members be weighed when the same official judges them unjustified? What does it mean for transparency if dissenting assessments from within the counterterrorism leadership are not fully heard before the decision is made? You got that right. What structural changes would be required so that accountability does not rest primarily on individual resignation? I know, I think a public apology from we the people is due to Mr. Joe Kent. Sir, an honor to have you as an American. Have the incentives that shape decisions about foreign military commitments actually changed, or do they remain largely the same? Y'all need to be heard. The record has been measured. The standards have been applied. The tool remains in your hands. That is the complete examination of this case. That is how the method stays consistent. And that concludes this episode, Measuring the Record. I hope you leave with an understanding of how we need the standards implemented, adhered to, and have the incentive to grow as a whole instead of an individual. Until next time, and after I find the button. I got it. Good night. God bless. And Joe Kent, thank you.